Hi guys, it's Mr. Wedge, and today we're going to do some undersea silhouettes. So I've got some scissors, a pencil, a paintbrush, white glue. I've got blue paint and white paint, and I just put them on a paper plate to use as a palette. And then I've got one sheet of black paper and one sheet of white paper. So the cutting and the gluing and the black paper we'll save for later. We're going to paint first. So step one would be put your name on the back and your class code. 3- something. And flip it over, and it's up to you if you work the landscape orientation or the portrait orientation. Totally up to you. But the first thing we need to do is make some tints. So we're going to make some gradation going from light to dark, but we're just going to stick with blue. Actually, it doesn't have to be blue. This color you could change a little bit as long as it's like the ocean color, because we're going to be underwater. So I'm going to use my puddle of white paint. I'm just going to add a little bit of blue to it, just a tiny drop, and stir that up. And it's still very, very light, but it's not white anymore. It's blue now. Just a very, very light blue. That's called a tint. And you can start anywhere you want. You can start in the middle. It's kind of boring if you have a focal point right in the middle of your painting. So it's nice to kind of put it off to the side a little bit somewhere. And I'm just going to make a circle. Doesn't matter how big it is. And then I'm going to go back and take a little bit more blue and add it to that same puddle. And it's still light blue, but it's just a little bit darker and a little bit more blue. So once you've got that mixed up, you can go around this circle that you started with. And I'm just going to keep doing that. I'm going to keep adding a little bit of blue each time and making it more and more blue until I fill up my whole paper. It's going to go right to the edges. This next part's optional, you don't have to do it, but I've got a clean brush and a paper towel. And I'm just going to go in, and wherever the two values touched each other, I'm just going to paint it and just sort of blend it together. And that'll get rid of all those hard lines and edges. And that way it'll just fade from light to dark. And you notice I'm cleaning my brush in between colors. So each time I blend, I just wipe my brush off with the paper towel. And you got to do this while the paint's still wet. So there we go, just a little bit more of a fade than there was before. So if you can picture it, where it's like we're underwater and we're looking up at the sunlight coming down through the water. So I'm gonna do more to this because we're gonna make silhouettes too, but next I'm gonna put this on the drying rack and let it dry. And then I'll clean up my table. So while your painting is drying on the drying rack, you can get your black paper out and your pencil and draw some sea creatures. And I did a bunch of sharks and little fish and a sea turtle, but it's totally up to you. Here, I'll show you how I did these sharks. So I sort of did like an S, but I curved it like that. And then kind of come out like this, but then you're gonna get closer, like real close to the tail, and then you can draw something that kind of looks like the tail from above. That part's kind of tricky, but and then this would be the nose, and then the fins, you know, two fins coming out the side, so out and curve down and then more or less straight in. Same thing on the other side. Okay, and you can adjust as you go. If it doesn't look right to you, you can change it. Maybe the nose would be more out here. But anyway, that's a shark. And then sea turtle, I did an oval with the head and the fins kind of the same way, and the tail. But it's up to you, any sea creature you want to do. And it's up to you how many you have. Try to do at least 3. But we also want to do some like landmarks kind of thing. So I'm gonna use the corner of my paper here and just make sort of a jagged, bumpy line. Doesn't really matter. Could be coral or seaweed. And just kind of connect one side of the paper to the other so that you have this corner. I'm gonna do the same thing over here. You want at least 2 corners. You might be able to work it out that you have all 4 if you want, but you want at least 2 corners, at least 3 sea creatures. And then we're gonna cut them out. And this will take a while, but you just want to remember to cut right on that line. And it's easy if you turn your paper and keep your scissors straight. Keep your scissors straight, point it away from you. Just cut right on that line as careful as you can. Once you have your sea creatures and your coral cut out, we can get our painting back. And if it's dry, we can glue our black shapes onto it. And I'm gonna put the glue on the side that has the pencil lines, because that way we can flip it over and you won't see the pencil lines. It'll just be a nice dark silhouette. Just a black solid shape of something. Because if you think about it, we're underwater and we're looking up. So anything that's swimming in the water is going to cover up the light, and it'll just look really, really dark and have a lot of contrast. So I'm just going to put a few dots of glue around the outside, just on any place I think it might lift up, any of the pointy parts, especially on the tips of things and in the corners. So just a few dots around the edges, maybe a few on the inside. You don't need a lot. And then wherever you think it would look good, we can take our black shape, line it up, and if it's got a corner, I like to line it up right with the corners of my painting. Stick it down flat. If you see some of the glue poke out, it's okay. If it's white glue, it'll dry clear. So then we're gonna push it down real flat and just leave that to dry. And I'm gonna keep going, and I'm gonna arrange my animals so it looks like they're swimming through the water. It's nice to have some things leave the picture plane, so I put this shark so his tail's just going off the edge a little bit. So now if I flip it over, I can take some scissors and just trim the tail off. And you can do that with any sea creature or any of your features that you're gluing down. Because if you took a photograph, not everything would be inside the picture plane. So that's just another way to make it look more realistic. I hope you guys like this project. It's fun to do something dramatic like this and use value to create contrast, but you can use your imagination a little bit too. So work hard, have fun.